After watching this video, you'll never kill another Phalaenopsis orchid again. Hi guys, so today I'm going to take you through how to care for your Phalaenopsis orchid. So these orchids are native to Southeast Asia and they grow in hot, humid, tropical forests as epiphytes, which means that they grow on other trees and plants. And if I can show you with this one, you can see that they have these aerial roots. So these roots will attach to a tree and then they will absorb moisture and nutrients from the air. And they are extremely easy to care for within the home environment, given that you have to give them proper light and also watering. And so we'll start with light. So you want to place your orchid somewhere in the middle of the room where it will get bright indirect light but not direct sun. Because if you again take it to the natural environment, they would grow underneath the kind of canopy of trees, and the sunlight would never actually reach their leaves, but they would have that bright indirect filtered light coming through. So next thing we talk about is watering, which is very important when it comes to not only Phalaenopsis orchids but orchids in general. And the first thing that you have to keep in mind is that you don't want to keep your orchid too wet. That is very important because their roots have adapted to grow with lots of air movement around it. So if you have it in a closed container where it's very wet, the roots will rot. And that is one of the fastest ways to kill your orchid. So when you want to decide when to water your orchid, you look at the roots. So if I can show you with these two, you'll see with this one that the roots are a nice green color. So, and that tells you that this pot has enough moisture in it. The plant can absorb the moisture. And you can see that this one has a silver coating to the roots, which tells you that it can do with some moisture at some point, but not yet, I'd say. So the best way to water your orchid is to take it out of the cover pot that you would usually have it in within your house. And you simply place it underneath the tap in the sink and let the water run through the pot of your orchid. And then you put your orchid on the sink and let the water dry off. And that's the best way to mimic their natural watering cycle of being wet and dry. What you do not want to do with your Phalaenopsis orchids is to put ice in the pot. So the whole ice thing was started as a gimmick to make orchids seem easy to care for. So if you just say add some ice, people would think that, oh no, anyone can grow an orchid. But if you think about where these orchids come from in nature, why would putting ice cold water on their roots be a good thing? And secondly, ice slowly melting away in the pot, it would keep the root ball too wet and the orchid would not have that fast wet and dry cycle that we spoke about. Also, when watering your Phalaenopsis orchid is not to get any water within the crown of the plant, because that will lead to crown rot. And I can show it to you on this one, where if you look how the orchid is slanting to one side, this is how they would grow in nature. So when it rains, all the water flows off the leaves and to the ground, and no water sits in the crown of the plant. So, humidity. What I found in my personal experience is that the modern Phalaenopsis hybrids that you buy from the store are actually very tolerant to the drier humidity conditions that you'll have in an average home. But if you want to increase humidity around your plant, you can run a humidifier. You can also place your orchid on a tray of pebbles that you have water in the bottom, and so as the water evaporates around your orchid, it increases the humidity in the vicinity of your plant. After your orchid has finished flowering, what you want to do is count on the nodes. You won't see it with this one, but perhaps with this big one. Is that you count along the stem from the bottom, these nodes that you see here. So you count 1, 2, 3, and at the third one, you cut the stem off. And I'll show you with this one I did a few months ago, where I cut the stem off at the third node. There's a new flower spike emerging. So that's one way to reflower your Phalaenopsis orchids. When it comes to repotting, you want to look at what media your orchid is potted in. So if I again show you with this one is potted in sphagnum moss. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of sphagnum moss because it can keep the orchid too wet for too long, and also as the moss breaks down, it can become acidic, which is not good for your orchid roots. This one, on the other hand, you can see is potted in fine pine bark, which is a much better mixture to use for Phalaenopsis orchids because it allows more air movement to be around the roots. The other thing I want to discuss with you guys is, of course, the difference between the orchid that you buy in the shop and the one that reflowers for you at home. So if I can show you with these two. So this one I bought last year and it reflowered for me this year at home for the first time. And you can see how the stems are shorter and they branch out and they arch in this like natural fashion. And this one I bought probably a few weeks ago, and you'll see the difference if you put them side by side. This orchid has been grown in a greenhouse with optimal conditions around temperature, humidity, fertilizer. So the orchid has really been primed to grow these long, beautiful spikes, whereas this orchid has been on my bathroom windowsill. You know, getting a weekly watering and a balanced orchid fertilizer every 2 weeks. So I've been told that how growers achieve these long flower spikes is at a certain point in the spike development, they give the plants a dose of nitrogen, and that makes these spikes grow longer. So I'm not entirely sure about that, but if you guys know anything about it, please feel free to comment in the comment section.